Okay, so let's take that and move on to talking about some basic options strategies. In the first one, we're going to buy 2 ABC October 30 calls for a premium of $4 a share. So you see I've written out the position just as I spoke about earlier. So what does this mean? Well, call options represent the right to buy. So we have the right to buy ABC stock at the price of 30 bucks because that's our strike price. And how many shares do we have the right to buy? Well, it's 2 contracts. So that represents 200 shares. Anytime you are dealing with an option strategy on the exam, anytime you're dealing with an option strategy, the first thing you have to do, the most important thing, is to figure out the attitude of the investor. What is the investor's view? Does the investor want the stock to go up or down? Well, in this case, the investor has the right to buy the stock for 30. So would the investor want to buy the stock for 30 if it was worth 20? No. The investor would never buy the stock for 30 if it's worth less. When would the investor want to buy the stock for 30? If it was worth more than that. So if the stock were worth 50, the investor would want to buy it for 30. So in this case, an investor who buys a call is said to have a bullish view. An investor who buys a call is going to have a bullish view. The investor wants to buy the stock for less than it's actually worth. For example, let's say the market value in the first example is below the strike. So for example, let's say the market value is 20. As I talked about earlier, would an investor who has the right to buy the stock for 30, would an investor want to buy the stock for 30 if it's actually worth 20? The answer is no. You wouldn't want to buy the stock for more than it's worth. So the investor would let the option expire, and the investor would lose $4 a share times 200 shares, and the investor would just lose the premium times 200 shares for a total loss of $800. The investor would lose $4 a share times 200 shares, and therefore lose $800. Let's say, on the other hand, the stock were worth 50. Well, if the stock were worth 50, would an investor want to buy the stock for 30? Absolutely. So an investor would exercise the option and then make $20 because the investor can buy the stock for 30 and then sell it down here for $50 in the market. So the investor would make $20 minus the $4 premium per share. So the investor would profit 16 bucks a share times 200 shares for a total of $3,200. In this case, when the market value is above the strike price, the option is said to be in the money. The option is said to be in the money. What does it mean when an option is in the money? Well, for a call option, it means the market value is greater than the strike price. Effectively, it means the option will be exercised. In the previous example, when the stock was worth 20, the option was out of the money. And that happens when the market value is below the strike price. When the market value is below the strike, the option is said to be out of the money, which effectively means, as far as we care for the test, it means the option will expire. Okay? And when the market value equals the strike price, the option is said to be at the money. When the market value equals the strike, the option is at the money. Very, very important to understand. I mentioned in our previous slide, one important concept is understanding that an option is a security and can be traded away. We talked about that 2 slides earlier. The next important point is this. The terms in the money and out of the money have nothing at all to do with profit or loss. In the money just means the option will be exercised. It's just a fact that the market value is greater than the strike. It doesn't mean you'll profit because you might be on the wrong side of the trade, as I'll show you in a second. And out of the money just means the market value is below the strike. It means the option will expire, which doesn't necessarily mean you'll lose, because you might be on the other side of the trade. But it does mean, as far as we're concerned for the test, that the option will expire. And I'll talk about how that applies in just a minute. So what kinds of things might they ask you on the test about options? Sticking with the same position. The first thing they might ask you is, what is the maximum gain on the position? We already decided that we're bullish, by the way, for this position. Same position as the previous slide. What is the most amount of money we can make? What's my suggestion when they ask you this on the test? Just make up a number. Give yourself an example. So if we're bullish, when will we achieve the maximum gain? If the stock goes up. So let's just make up a number. Make up 100. Make it nice and easy. If the stock were to go up to 100, the question is, would we want to buy the stock for 30 if it's worth 100? The answer is yes. So we exercise the option. We buy the stock for 30. It's worth 70, so we make the difference. We make $70 a share minus our $4 premium, so we make 66 bucks. Let's say the stock keeps going up. If it goes up to 150, well, we're definitely going to exercise and buy the stock for 30. So we buy it for 30. It's worth 150, so we make 120 bucks a share minus a $4 premium. So we're up $116. So what's our maximum gain when we buy call options? Our maximum gain is unlimited. No matter how high the stock goes, we're always going to exercise it, buy it for the strike price, and sell it in the market for whatever it's worth. Maximum loss. If we're bullish, we want the stock to go up. So what would be the worst possible case? If the stock goes down, and the lowest the stock could possibly fall is 0. So the worst possible scenario is that the stock goes all the way to 0. And if that does happen, if the stock were to fall all the way to 0, well, you're not going to exercise and buy it for 30, so the option expires, and you lose your $4 premium per share. And by the way, that again, this is based on 200 shares. So it would be $4 per share or a total loss of $800. And they will also ask you to find the break-even point. That's the market value where the investor's profit or loss is exactly 0. It's the market value where the investor's profit or loss is exactly 0. So you want to think about the premium here. In this case, we paid the $4 premium. We paid a $4 premium. So in order for our P&L to be exactly 0, what would need to happen? What would need to happen to reverse it? Well, we got to earn $4. We got to make back that $4 that we already paid. And if we're bullish, which way do you need the stock to go to profit? You need to go up. So the break even is 34, because if it goes up $4, you will offset that $4 premium that was paid to open the position. So again, every option approach on the exam, you want to set up just like this, nice, organized. Max gain, max loss, break even, depending on which one they ask you. And you'll see, both in this lecture and later lectures, later installments, I'm going to use this approach even for complex strategies like covered calls and spreads. And if you know the approach, you should be able to answer the question correctly. Moving on next to writing or selling call options. Now you're on the other side of the transaction. So who did you sell a call option to? You sold a call option to somebody else who bought a call option. You sold a call to somebody else, and that person bought a call. Okay. And what's the risk? Well, that person, as we just spoke about on the previous slide, can purchase the stock from you. So what would that force you to do? You will have to deliver or sell the stock at the strike price because they're calling it away from you. Now you're on the opposite side of the trade. So you have to deliver the stock to them at the strike price. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to take on that risk? Because now you receive the premium. Whenever you sell anything in this world, including options, you get paid. So now you are earning income. So anytime you're asked, what would be a good strategy if you want to earn income? You're always going to look to sell an option. Because when you sell options, you will earn income. And we'll talk about the multiple strategies bit in a few minutes. But for example, if you were to sell 10 DEF May 30 calls at 7, so somebody has the right to buy the stock from you for 30. Let's say the stock goes up to 40. Are they going to want to buy the stock from you for 30? Absolutely. So they're going to come in and say, hey, pal, I'm calling it away for 30. That's the expression. The stock is called away. So what do you have to do? We got to get the stock in the market for 40 bucks and sell it to that person for 30. And you don't have a choice because you sold the option. You don't get to decide what happens. You are forced to deliver it if it's exercised. If the stock goes up to 70, again, you got to go get it in the market for 70 and give it up for 30. If the stock goes up to 100, you got to get it for 100 and give it up for 30. And in all those cases, by the way, is the option in the money or out of the money? It's in the money. Whenever it's exercised, whenever the market value is greater than the strike price, the option is in the money. Even though we lost in all those cases, right? The last example, we had to pay $100 for the stock and sell it for only 30. So the fact that you lost, it's still in the money. It just means when you sell an option, you don't want it to be in the money. When you sell an option, you want it to be out of the money. You don't want any excitement. Put another way, when we sold the option, it doesn't change the fact that it's in the money. It changes the fact that now it sucks. Because now we are on the wrong side of the trade. And we're on the wrong side of the trade. Let's continue with another example. Here we're going to sell 10 DEF May 40 calls at 3. So we're selling call options. When you sell an option, you do not want it to be in the money. You want it to be out of the money. You want no excitement. You want the option to expire. And when are calls out of the money? When the stock goes down. So when you sell a call option, you are bearish. Maximum gain, if the stock were to fall, well, we want the stock to go to 0. That would be our maximum gain. At a market value of 0, how do we do? Well, is the option in the money or out of the money? You don't even have to think about this word right here. It's a 40 call. And if the market value is 0, well, the call is out of the money, right? If the stock goes down, the call will be out of the money. And what happens when a call option is out of the money? It expires, and you keep your premium. In this case, we keep the premium because we sold the option. When you sell an option, you get paid. You collect the premium. Max loss, this is the example we spoke about. This is where the stock goes the wrong direction. So if the stock goes up to 100, well, you got a big problem, right? Because the person's going to say, hey, pal, I'm calling it away from you for 40. I'm calling it away for 40. So what do we have to do? We got to get it for 100 in the market, and we got to deliver it to that person for 40. So you lose 60 bucks less your premium. If the stock keeps going up, if it goes to 150, it gets even worse, right? Because now you lose 110. You got to get it for 150. You got to give it up for 40. So you're going to lose 107. So your maximum loss is unlimited. This is called selling an uncovered call or a naked call. It's an unlimited potential loss, so it's the riskiest option position. It's the single riskiest option position. And when you sell an uncovered call or a naked call, the broker-dealer will generally require an investor to post collateral. You have to put a margin. I wouldn't worry about how much, but you got to put a margin because the investor does not know, the broker-dealer rather does not know, are you going to have enough money to go into the market and buy the stock for 150 bucks in the second scenario here? So the investor will be required to post margin. And finally, the break-even point. Well, in this case, we sold the option, so we earned the $3 premium. So what would need to happen to break even? Well, we earned that $3 premium. Okay. So to break even, we'd have to lose that money back, because break even means our profit or loss needs to be exactly zero. And when we lose money, well, if we're bearish, which way do you want the stock to go? Well, if you're bearish, you want the stock to go down. So therefore, when would we lose money? We would lose money if the stock goes up. So if it went up by $3, that would get us a break even of $43. It would get us a break even of $43. And finally, for this unit, let's do one example of buying put options. So let's say an investor buys 1XYZ, October 30 put at 4. A put option represents the right to sell the stock. A put option represents the right to sell the stock. So in this case, the investor has the right to sell stock for $30. When would an investor want to sell stock for 30? Would an investor want to sell stock for 30 if it was actually worth 50? No, why would you sell for 30 if it was actually worth 50 in the market? When would an investor want to sell stock for 30? Well, let's say the stock were only worth 10. So an investor who buys a put option is bearish. The investor wants the stock to fall. The investor wants the stock to fall so the investor can sell the stock for more than it's worth. Put another way, a put option's in the money. A put option's in the money when the market value is below the strike price. A put option's in the money when the market value is below the strike price. So if I were to ask you, what is the maximum gain? What is the most amount of money we could make? We have the right to sell the stock for 30. And if we're bearish, best case scenario, the stock goes all the way to 0. At a market value of 0, would you be interested in selling the stock for 30? Absolutely. So you sell the stock for 30. It's not worth anything. So you make $30 minus your premium. So your maximum gain will be if the stock falls all the way to 0. And if that does happen, you make the difference between the strike price and the market value of the stock, which is effectively 0. So you make $30 minus the premium. How about our maximum loss? When are we going to lose money? Well, let's say the stock goes up. Let's say it goes up to 100 again. Make the math nice and easy. At a market value of 100, we have the right to sell the stock for 30. Would you want to sell stock for 30 if it was actually worth 100? The answer is no. Absolutely not. So in that case, you let the option expire. This option said be out of the money. For put options, a put option will be out of the money when the market value is above the strike price. A put option will be out of the money when the market value is above the strike price. So we would just lose the premium. Okay, and the break even, again, that's the market value where the profit or loss is exactly 0. So we initially paid a $4 premium. Okay, so to break even, we'd have to earn that $4 back. That $4 that we lost, we'd have to make it back. In order for that to happen, in order for us to profit $4, well, we're bearish, right? Remember, we already decided that we're bearish. This is why knowing the attitude is always helpful. We are bearish. So if the stock, we would need the stock to fall to make money, so it would have to fall by $4. So the break even would be 26. So you got to offset the premium and think about which way the stock would have to go from the strike to offset that premium.